Everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Bree.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Damn Strong Podcast. Alex and I were just talking about some TV shows we've been watching.
Yeah, TV shows we've been watching.
And we figured we would start recording, so if anyone needs recommendations, you guys can get some rec.
Yeah,
so what
just
show
listen
are you
in.
about to talk about?
Okay, so Dave, with Little Dickie's show, Dave.
Mhm.
This is not a spoiler, but season 3 was really, really good. I thought it was on par with season 1. I thought season 2 dipped a little bit. Season 1, season 3, banger content. And there's this song in it about Rachel McAdams. I'm going to play it really quick. I don't know how it'll come through, so if it doesn't sound good, sorry, we're going to cut this out. But
Okay.
here we go. Just wait for the chorus. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
I take your name, girl, facts. It's insanely far-fetched. I ain't playing why you think I've been rapping to be Mr. McAdams. Say, don't lie to me, don't lie.
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit.
Oh, girl, be Mr. McAdams. I take your name, girl, facts. It's insanely far-fetched. I ain't playing why you think I've been rapping to be Mr. McAdams. Say, yes. Are you a blonde or brunette?
So he's basically proposing to Rachel McAdams in a song.
Yes, it is. I mean, it is the most ludicrous episode of TV I've maybe ever seen.
Really?
It's so good. You have to watch it. It's like later in the season though.
So if anyone doesn't know, Alex is talking about what's the show called? I forgot.
Dave. It's called Dave.
Yeah. If you know who Lil Dicky is, he's a rapper, and if you're not, it's definitely a crude.
I mean, he's
very
crude, very crude,
very crude. So if you're not into shows like that,
sex jokes and stuff
don't recommend.
Like that. Yeah.
But he is just a really funny guy in general.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I was telling.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, about Jack Ryan.
Oh, I was going to say, I was telling Alex to watch Jack Ryan, which is the show with, if you've ever seen The Office, the main guy in it's Jim Halpert or John Krasinski.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. There was another show that we watched too recently, Jack Reacher. Have you seen Jack Reacher?
I actually, until right now, didn't know those were two different things.
Yeah, they're two different things.
Aren't they both like spy, like
they're
military
very
man?
Similar. Very similar. Huh. So they're both kind of like spy CIA stuff where they're solving some overall arching world-ending thing.
Yeah.
The only thing about Jack Reacher is the acting's not like the greatest, but the storyline and like you're trying to figure things out as the show's going on and you're like, I wouldn't have caught that, or there's a twist. That one's really, really good too. Just be prepared for the acting not to be as good as Jack Reacher, but they're both really, really good.
Are they different enough that you would really recommend watching both?
Yes, because the storylines are different enough. Like Jack Reacher starts, and this is not spoiling anything, he's passing through like a very small town, and basically he gets in this town and like ends up getting wound up, like tied up into this situations going on this really small town, and ends up being, something obviously much bigger. And then Jack Reacher is like international, they're traveling to different countries and all this kind of stuff. So it's different enough. Mm. And also the stories are written different enough that you're like, oh my gosh, didn't see that coming. And it's just really good. I recommend both for sure.
There were a few shows that just recently wrapped up that we just finished. One was Barry on HBO. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend.
Okay.
It's about a serial. No, not a serial killer. It is about a hitman, a former military hitman.
Okay.
That discovered his passion and love for acting. I'm dead serious. It is so funny.
Okay.
It's like dramatic too, but it's so funny. We just finished up another one. Dave. Oh, and then Ted Lasso.
Oh, I love Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso.
Are you caught up?
We haven't watched No, we don't have Apple TV. We did have it like through my mom gave us like a trial, and during that trial period, we watched it, and we haven't watched the most recent season. We honestly should bite the bullet and get Apple TV. So we can watch it. This
is always spoiler free. Anytime we're talking about shows or anything like that, it's spoiler free.
Yeah.
But yeah, great season. Yep, that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, Ted Lasso. Oh, I love Ted Lasso.
It's a good one.
I have one of my best friends. Her husband is like so Ted Lasso. Like his demeanor, his character, what he says. He's very dad jokey, which is kind of how Ted Lasso is. And so for Halloween, which we ended up getting to do this for Halloween, he was going to be Ted Lasso, and his wife, which is my best friend, was going to be a soccer ball. It was going to be so perfect. I was like, that's such a good Halloween costume. It's like a soccer ball and then Ted Lasso.
I love those lowbrow jokes where it's like one person dresses up as like SpongeBob, and then the other person just dresses up as like a pineapple, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the chocolate guy from SpongeBob too. Remember?
Yes.
They're like chocolate.
Yeah,
or something. Yeah.
Like the worm looking dude. Is that the one you're talking about? Who's like in the crazy person? The crazy
or
person?
the crazy. You could be in the wheelchair and be the crazy lady too.
Yeah.
Or the one that's like, oh brother, every single time in like every episode. It's like such small characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the guy who screams "my leg" in SpongeBob.
Yeah, my leg. Exactly. No, so good. But that's all the shows.
Get into it?
Yeah, let's just get into it. I don't have any more shows to talk about anyways. So
I'm gonna go see Spider-Man this week, the new Spider-Man. But yeah, that's
the multiverse one.
Yeah,
we saw Fast. Okay, last thing, then we'll get into the episode. We saw Fast 10 yesterday. The new Fast and Furious movie.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. However, here's the asterisk. It's a 3-part movie.
What does
this is part 1 of Fast 10.
What?
Yeah, I had no idea. Literally, Sage and I are walking in the movie. He goes, just so you know, this is a 2-part movie. I go, what? And then at the end of the movie, we Google it, and he goes, oh, wait, no, I misspoke. It's a 3-part movie. So Fast 10, the final movie, is going to be broken into 3 separate movies. Of all franchises to do this, of course Fast and Furious did that.
Of course they did, but they did not need to do this.
No, they didn't. But it was good. Enough. It was good. They definitely toned down. You know, like a few of the movies, they like went overboard with like some of the theatrics of stuff. It was just way too much.
Dom Toretto has stomped a parking garage and made the floor collapse. Like
they definitely toned it down a bunch. It was good though. It was really good. Sage loves the Fast and those are probably his favorite movies of all time. Like when Paul Walker passed away, he cried. Like he loves those movies.
Like Tokyo Drift holds a special place in my heart.
Oh, Sage is sitting next to me. He's like, yes.
Tokyo Drift was like my childhood. Like I watched that movie so many times.
So yeah,
and I played like all the Need for Speed games and like wanted to design my cars all crazy, so you know?
Too.
Yeah, so fun.
Yeah, so it was good. Definitely your typical like Fast and Furious movie. They toned it down a little bit, which is good, but it's a 3-part thing, which I'm just like, of course, Fast and Furious has already pushed out 10 movies. They're gonna make sure they get 3 movies out of this last movie, basically.
Yeah.
So it was good though.
Do you want to share the news about that you got, the good news that you got on the
I knew you were gonna ask me that.
Yeah. You want to?
I don't know. No, I'll probably wait.
It's your good news. You should.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna wait. All
right, one more milestone that I'll celebrate then. Congratulations to you. You passed 10,000 views.
Well, I mean, to both of us too. I know I initially started this podcast on my own.
You built this thing, and you deserve a whole lot of credit for that. I came in when it was at, I don't know, like 7,000, 8,000 already.
Just off my coattails, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I just begged for a spot. I said, please, I can't make my own. Please, I need to hop in with you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see that 10,000 streams, and
that's awesome.
Can't wait to hit 20 and then 100,000, and it'll just keep going. So
yeah, then 1 million, 2 million, and then we'll call it a 2023 and move on to 2024.
There we go. There you go.
If we get 1 million podcast views by end of year,
there's no way. But
I mean, actually, a shower with $100 bills.
And anything's possible, but like, I mean, we only got like 6 months at this point, so
that'd be a tough turnaround.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anyways, the topic we're talking about today is
my metabolism broken? We're basically going to just address all of the common, I guess, things we hear, things people talk about of, you know, I can't lose weight because my metabolism's broken or it's not properly functioning, however you want to phrase it. I think I know I do. I think you probably do as well. Get a handful of DMs where people are saying like, my metabolism's broken. It's because I'm not eating enough and therefore my metabolism's broken. It's because I dieted for a long time. It's broken. All of these things, you're saying a reason that my metabolism is broken and it's not functioning correctly and therefore I can't lose weight. Yeah. So we're going to dive into that topic. Is there anything you want to kind of add to that before we start?
No, I get these DMs a lot. Same as you know, and it's like, for some reason, you know, they feel that the system being their body is rigged against them. And so it's like an uphill battle. And I'm going to, you know, let's be clear and like add a disclaimer. Like, Fat loss and muscle gain will absolutely be harder for some people and easier for other people. That's
Yeah.
just the way it works. That's just the reality of it. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It does mean it's harder. You got to play the cards you're dealt, the hand you're
Yeah.
dealt, whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
Sitting there and complaining about it does nothing.
Yeah. It doesn't change the situation of what you're in.
Yep.
So,
All
100%.
right, let's do it.
So I first wanted to define, I guess, what people typically mean by when they say that. This is kind of my first point that I put on here is, and I just
Mhm.
wrote down usually that you have some sort of issue that despite eating in a calorie deficit, you can't lose weight because your metabolism is not functioning properly. So basically what I said all the prior to this, it's not when you're in a surplus, it's not when you're in maintenance. It's typically people are trying to lose body fat and they're unsuccessful and they think, okay, there might be this reason or that reason or this reason or whatever because I've been in a quote unquote deficit that I cannot lose weight.
I think the technical definition for metabolism, isn't it like the sum of all life's processes or something like that? Is like the
Uh, Good question. Why don't you, are you Googling at the moment?
Yeah, I'm going to Google that. And the chemical processes that occur within a living organism in order to maintain life. So, yeah, relatively close.
Yeah, so you're basically, if you're saying my metabolism's not functioning properly, you're saying the chemical reactions that require me to maintain life is not functioning properly, I
Yeah,
guess is what you could say.
and I feel like we should distill down like what a metabolism is. When I was younger, I legitimately thought that like my metabolism was like borderline a train engine that I could fill with coal, kind of like stoke it a little bit and get
Yeah.
this like bigger fire going and it would just like magically burn more calories. And I was always
Yeah.
told because I was very thin, I didn't eat much and I played soccer like, year round. I was
Right.
always told you have a fast metabolism. So weight loss is very easy for you and weight gain is very hard for you. But
Hmm.
that like really distorted the image in my brain of like what actually was going on. What was actually going on is I had severe food allergies, so I would not eat as much as other people. And then the
Right.
other hand part of that is I was moving constantly.
Right.
I'm somebody who paces around a lot anyway, but with soccer, I'm playing like 2-3 hours every day, 5 times
Yeah.
a week for year round from the age of like 3 to like 21 years old, 22 years old. I, I'm going to be burning a lot of calories and I'm not eating much.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
not
want
that
to
my
dive in?
yeah,
Yeah, I would say, do you want to dive in a little bit on the whole like fast versus slow metabolism? Because I do feel like those terms are very misleading.
I think first we should talk about what is metabolism outside of just the definition. So the way that
Yeah.
I would like, and correct me if I'm missing any gaps or anything,
Yeah.
or if you have a different viewpoint, but I would, it is your energy expenditure. That is a better way of looking at it rather than metabolism because it's kind of like this nebulous term to a degree. So it's like a scientific term that people throw around. It's like a magic, word that they could
Yeah.
just put their blames on. It's my metabolism.
Yeah.
But really it's your energy expenditure, at least as how I see it. And with that, there's four parts, and I don't know if we have to go into these. I guess I'll do it briefly. Your basal
Yeah.
metabolic rate, your the thermic effect of food. I Basal metabolic rate is the calories needed if you were like laying in a bed just to keep you alive. So if you
Yeah.
were not moving that much, usually
Yeah.
it's around the neighborhood of like 1,000 to like 1,300. Could be higher, could be lower, but somewhere
Right.
around that ballpark. Thermic effect of food. That is the calories needed to process, digest, use food that you eat, food and drink. Then there is the other two are exercise, activity thermogenesis, the calories you burn from dedicated exercise, and then there's
Not, are
non-exercise
you oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is the calories you burn that aren't planned or dedicated exercise, like me moving my hands around, walking around the grocery store, going
Right.
for a daily walk. That could be like kind of a gray area because like, is that dedicated exercise? Is it not?
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, is the biggest change in people who are
Mover.
sedentary.
Needle mover.
This could be 50 calories. In people who are highly active, this could be like 800 plus
Yeah.
calories. So like
Yeah.
this is going to drastically change, and I think one of the easiest ways to impact or like stoke your metabolism, increase your metabolism, is setting a daily step goal. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like there's no magic number. We often throw around 8,000, 10,000. These are relatively arbitrary topic or targets. I think it was Japanese, I think, came out with a 10K target like
Hmm. It
years
was
ago.
like a marketing thing back in the 50s, is what I understand, where that
Yeah.
10K magic number came from.
Yeah, and so there's no like I have kind of heard rumblings of an anti-hunger effect around 8,000. Um, I to be honest, I haven't seen like a clear-cut study that shows like this versus this, so take that with a
Yeah.
grain of salt. But I think one of the easiest ways to increase your metabolism, I'm using air quotes here, or like boost your metabolism, whatever, is just set a daily step goal. If you're walking 2,000 steps a day, shoot for 4,000. If you're at 4,000,
Yeah.
shoot for 6,000, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Yeah. I think if I was to define metabolism, how it makes sense in my brain is it's the energy balance equation. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of
Yep.
people say like my metabolism, they think about, okay, how much am I burning all the time and stuff like that. But it's also the part that plays into it too. Yes, the more you're burning, the more you can consume if you're trying to maintain, lose weight, whatever. But it's also what you consume too. So I think if you're saying the reason why I hate fast metabolism or slow metabolism is it's not that yours is doing things faster than mine's doing it. It's that you're burning more throughout the day because maybe you're more active than I am. And so I hate the word fast and slow. It should be like you burn more, you burn maybe not less. It's just like someone has a faster metabolism. All it
Just more
means is that
active.
they're just more active, is what
Yeah.
that means. And so I hate those terms because it's like, it's not that they're burning 4 calories a minute while you're only burning 2 calories a minute. Well, maybe they are because they're moving around more, right? So I guess that could pan out, but it's not that it's necessarily faster. It's just overall in the day, they just have more output. So when you think about metabolism, of how someone's metabolism is functioning, I think of, okay, what are they putting out and also what they're taking in is kind of how I, in my brain, visualize just that balance of the equation, I guess.
Yeah, totally agree. The one thing, so I'm doing something over on the side monitor over here, and I'll show it off in a second. But um, one thing that I want to kind of highlight is that if you have more weight, your whether that is body fat or muscle, both of those take energy to upkeep, essentially.
Yep.
So if you are 200 pounds versus like 135 pounds, the 200-pound person will technically speaking have a faster metabolism if
Yeah.
we're not counting in like activity. If that
Yeah.
person is very
Very true.
sedentary, that'll change. But so I know it might feel like an uphill battle. If you're 200 pounds, you might feel like, oh, I have a broken metabolism.
You
Actually,
have probably a faster, if not this.
fast.
Again, we're using fast because that's the term that everyone uses. I
Yes.
think everyone's clear now. That's not necessarily faster, but you have the faster metabolism or the same metabolism as someone who's 130 pounds based on how active they are.
So I pulled up two, just using TDE calculator. These are
Yeah.
just rough numbers. Please don't put any stock into them. But I wanted to compare somebody who is a 35-year-old female,
Okay.
200 pounds, 5'4", sedentary. Her maintenance calories might be 1,900 per day.
And that's
Compared to
just a ballpark number that a calories
ballpark, yes.
calculator is giving us. Yeah. Just
Yes,
ballpark.
going to be so different. But I
Yeah.
wanted to compare that to somebody, same stats, 35-year-old female, 5'4", sedentary, but this time she's 135 pounds, so 65 pounds less. She's going to be burning about 1,550 per day. This is the maintenance target, so
Yeah.
350 calorie difference.
Yeah.
That might not sound like a lot to the average person, but to
Yeah.
you and me, that is in a 350 calorie difference per
Yeah.
day is
Yeah.
insane. Like
Yeah.
so much of a difference. That's like 7 cups of broccoli.
Yeah.
You could be full for a day on that.
Well, I think if anyone ever thinks like, oh, 350 calories, like that's not a ton, just cut 350. We've said this in previous podcasts, just cut 350 calories out of your
Yeah.
day.
See
And
how
you'd
it
be like,
feels.
oh man, like easily if you're in a deficit, you could have a whole meal with 350 calories. I mean, how many,
Yeah.
I always compare like Oreos. That's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 Oreos or something. Maybe not exactly, but
5.
5
Each
Oreos.
Oreo.
There you
Some
go.
some Oreos are most Oreos they standardize to 70 calories per. Most, not all.
Okay.
Not thins, and there's some special edition that are sometimes 80,
True.
but almost always they're 70 per.
Yeah. So it ends up being a significant amount of just literally that because you did both sedentary, correct?
Both sedentary,
Yeah,
correct?
and one just weighs more. And like you said, it takes energy to maintain body mass. So if you have more body mass, you're actually going to be the one with the technically faster metabolism if you both have the same sedentary output, or not sedentary output, energy output.
Yeah, and
So,
keep in mind this is like in a vacuum. As soon as
yes.
we put in that one person's more active, one person maybe eats more protein, one person,
Hmm.
like different things like this. Protein has a higher thermic effect than carbs or fats.
Yeah.
it might add up over the course of a week or a month or something like that. It's
Right.
not huge. Protein thermic effect is what, like 20-30%, something like that.
You said,
10 to protein's
yeah, I
thermic
don't know off
effect.
the top of my head right now, but
It's
yeah.
like 20-30%, whereas fats and carbs are like 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
So basically, what that means is like, let's say you eat 100 calories. These are rough numbers.
Yeah.
Don't PubMed us. Don't hit us with the PMID. If you eat 100 calories worth of protein, maybe 20-30% of that, so 20-30 calories are going to be used of energy. It's not specifically of that protein, but of energy will be used in the process and storing. Whereas for fats and carbs, 5 to 10 calories out of
Yeah.
100 calories.
Yeah.
Rough numbers.
Yeah. Exactly.
There was something I want to talk about this isn't, I don't know if it's on the list, so sorry if I'm skipping ahead,
That's okay.
but people often say, I need to gain more muscle so that fat loss is easier for me. And I think
Yeah.
this is a great time for us to talk about muscle does not burn, it does burn more calories than body fat on
Just
a
not as much
pound
as
for
you
pound
think.
basis.
Yeah.
Not as much as you think.
Yeah.
People think that if you put on 10 pounds of muscle, that you're just going to be this fat burning machine and life is going
Yeah.
to be easy. Like
You just have to remember the net balance of it. I did a post on this. I don't think I have a podcast on this, or maybe I do. I can't remember, but I did do a post on this where I'm like, look, if you, let's say you gain 10 pounds of muscle, but then you lose 20 pounds of fat, you're actually probably going to have, your metabolism, how much you burn in a day is probably going to go down a little bit,
yeah,
because if you net balance that out, because like you said earlier, fat and muscle both take calories to maintain. It takes,
yeah,
your body has to burn calories to maintain that. And so when you lose that fat, but then gain some muscle, it nets out, and maybe you've only increased your calories by 10 at the
yeah.
net, or actually you decreased it by 20. So I agree. There's that people over market that with muscle
Yes.
gaining.
Yeah. They really think that you put on, and if you put on 10 pounds of muscle, that's a good amount of muscle. I mean, that's
Yeah,
not
it
something that you
really
do.
is.
How many pounds of muscle do we think that we would gain for a new person in a month or 12 months? I'm
Oh
saying like
gosh.
half pound so it's going
I
to,
was gonna say
there are going to be
a pound per month at the aggressive side of
I
like
agree.
of it.
Half pound to 1 pound. If you're new, you got your ducks in a row. You're doing things
Yeah.
real well. I think if you are I'm going to call a hyper responder, somebody who easily puts on muscle by the
Yeah.
feel and looks of it,
Right.
um, and you're a man, because there's different absolute rates versus, whatever.
Right.
Maybe pound and a half, 2 pounds of muscle. If you're brand new, like underweight, your body's like a squeezed sponge and it's just ready to soak up all
Yeah.
the muscle you can.
Right.
Maybe, but so like over the course of a year, you're talking maybe 5 to 20 pounds of muscle tops,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
max.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not going to change your calorie expenditure that much. So don't
Yeah.
feel like you need to put on muscle. That's your silver bullet. Now you're this
That
fat burning
putting
machine.
on muscle is not going to solve all of your metabolism problems. And I think people lean on that a lot. They're like, as soon as I get jacked or toned or whatever the word that you want to use, they're like, I'm gonna be able to eat 3,000 calories and enjoy my life. And it's like, you should start enjoying your life now and not wait for that, because it's really not going to be that big of a needle mover, especially if you're someone that's like 100 pounds overweight. You're already burning a lot more calories than other people who are at a normal, healthier weight. And so if anything, it's not going to, you're already burning probably the highest amount of calories that you're going to ever burn just simply by having more body mass.
Yeah, lifting
So
weights also does not burn that many calories. Like
yeah,
I would never use exercise to burn calories. Like that's not the
yeah,
point of exercise. The purpose of exercise is to drive an adaptation in your body. If we're
yep,
lifting weights, it's to build muscle, strength,
yeah,
flexibility, increase range of motion,
yep,
et cetera, neuromuscular efficiency, et cetera, et cetera. If if we're doing cardio, again, it's not for the purpose of burning calories. It's to
right,
drive adaptations in the cardiovascular realm of things, improving
right,
your heart health, which, believe it or not, actually matters a little bit more than
yeah,
having some body fat. Like
yeah,
I don't know. People get really wrapped up in like, oh, I need to go for a run so that I can burn some calories. It's like you're probably going to burn 100 to 300 calories on that run, give or take, which you wouldn't know because your wristwatch is inaccurate. So
right,
you wouldn't know
exactly,
unless you're in a lab how many
yeah,
calories you'd actually burn. And then you're going to be like, oh, wow, I did so good. This isn't everybody, so I hate to generalize, but
yeah.
I
But you
hate to
also
feel
probably
like
would,
you burn your food,
the 1 hour that you're going to go, or 30 minutes you're going to go to take a run, would actually be probably better used if you just meal prepped for the rest of the week, because you're
Yeah.
actually, by meal prepping, are probably saving yourself hundreds of calories because you have a
Absolutely.
plan, you have stuff in your fridge, you have no reason to go off course per se if like, you know, you don't have something to eat or whatever. Like the right decision is in front of you because you've meal prepped and spent that time versus going for a run for an hour and now you're scrambling all week to figure out what you're going to eat and then you go over your calories, whatever. And so it's actually probably better use of your time for calories, meal prepping, if that's something that you are finding is a struggle, is staying on target with your food. So
We can put this at the end if you want. Let me know if you want me to like put this at the end, and I'll just like start taking notes on it. I think a question that I would have if I was new to this and I was listening to this episode right now would be, well, then how do I increase my metabolism? How do I increase my energy expenditure? You know,
yeah.
like if it's not lifting, if it's not running, and like it is those things. But I think, do you want me to answer that right now with
Well,
just like
I
one
think I may have
thing?
a podcast on it,
Mm.
and we haven't even tapped into my notes yet for this
I
podcast.
know
So I think
we've
we
really
should go
gone.
through. I'm gonna start going through those. I don't know if you want to look on Spotify and see if I have one that
Yeah,
talks about that, like how to increase. I mean, I always get my posts versus what topics I've talked on mixed up, and if
for
not,
sure.
that would be honestly, I would love to do that for the next podcast because I think that'd be a good. Is my metabolism broken? No, it's not. And then we can talk about how you can increase your metabolism and stuff like that.
Yeah, like five
But
ways to increase your metabolism. We could do that in the next one.
yeah, for sure. So the first point that I put on this podcast to really to dive into is like, okay, so we talked about metabolism, all those kind of things. You know, you think your metabolism isn't functioning properly. It's like, well, let's even just talk. Let's dive into like the anatomy of your metabolism and where all that takes place. So it's like you've probably heard of your thyroid. Your thyroid is where all of that takes place. Your thyroid is this like butterfly shaped gland that sits on your neck. Yeah. Alex did a little like visualization for anyone on YouTube watching this. Not that we need to get too detailed, but there's 3 different lobes of the thyroid gland. It's part of your endocrine system, which your endocrine system is just this system of glands all throughout your body that release hormones. And so your thyroid releases hormones. And the hormones that are we're not going to get deep into this. I'm trying to just give everyone a basis, but you know, there's your T4, your T3, your RT3, and calcitonin. The main one that you'll hear people talk about is T4, which is like the main hormone that's releasing out of your thyroid. And your body makes all these hormones through iodine. So that's why you'll hear, or maybe you haven't heard, but if people have like goiters on their neck, it's because they have an iodine deficiency. Or that's why you'll see salts nowadays when you go into the grocery store that we have iodized salt to help supplement iodine into our diet per se. So just to kind of give you, again, just a small basis, your metabolism functions out of your thyroid. Your thyroid is part of your endocrine system, which is just a system of glands throughout your body. And these glands release hormones. And so this thyroid is releasing hormones, 4 main ones, that helps to regulate your metabolism. So is anything you want to add to that before I jump in the next part?
No, you're crushing
Okay.
it. I'm gonna stay shut up.
Okay. Okay. So what I normally get in my DMs of where people are like, well, my hormones aren't functioning correctly, or my thyroid isn't functioning correctly, or my metabolism isn't functioning correctly, or even on my posts, like I'll post something about a calorie deficit and someone will, well, Brie, you don't understand, I have Hashimoto's, or Brie, you don't understand, I'm going through menopause, or Brie, you don't understand, I have been a chronic dieter for years, and so my metabolism doesn't function properly. Okay. So let's go through each of these examples and just talk about, I don't even know how to describe. I just want to go through each of these and just show you, have you understand of like, sure, I guess we could say your metabolism doesn't function properly, but at the end of the day, if you're looking for fat loss, you do have to be in a calorie deficit. Because what a lot of people argue in my comments is that a calorie deficit works. However, I have Hashimoto's, so calorie deficit won't work for me. I have to regulate my hormones before a calorie deficit will work for me, which is untrue. You still have to be in a calorie deficit. So I'm going to go into Hashimoto's first, which is, you know, a type of autoimmune disease. And I have a client who has Hashimoto's and she has lost body fat and she's lost weight and we've done it. And so what Hashimoto's is it's an autoimmune disease. It's your body's attacking your thyroid. And so because it's attacking your thyroid, it's not functioning properly. So that is correct that it's not functioning properly. And it slows down your metabolism. What's happening at the basis of Hashimoto's is because your thyroid is not functioning properly and it's slowing down your metabolism, slowing down. Again, we talked about it's reducing how much you burn. You have to be in an even lower deficit than the average person. So let's say you don't have Hashimoto's. Your immune system is not attacking your thyroid. Let's say to be in a calorie deficit, you have to be at 1,500 calories. Well, now you have Hashimoto's because your body has reduced the amount of output that your thyroid is or metabolism is having. You now have to be at 1,100 calories to be in a deficit. So the reason why it's harder for people who have Hashimoto's to lose weight is because their calorie deficit has to be even lower than normal. And we know when you're having to be in a deficit at 1,100, 1,200, 1,000 calories, it is very, very hard to adhere to that. So I'm not saying if you have Hashimoto's, you need to go down to 1,000 calories and suck it up. What I'm saying is go to your doctor, work with your doctor. With my client who has Hashimoto's, we've worked with a doctor. We get her hormones tested to see if her Hashimoto's is the only word I think that is appropriate to use is like dormant. It's not active at the moment. She's on medications. And so that way she's able to be in a normal calorie deficit because she's working with her doctor to get her Hashimoto's under control. So how do you know if you have it? Typically, it's hereditary. You can look for goiters. You can test your T4 levels. Typically, they'll be low. You can test for antibodies because antibodies will be present if your body is attacking the thyroid. So I wouldn't automatically go straight. If you're not able to lose body fat, I wouldn't automatically go to, I have an autoimmune disease. You could go to the doctor, get your hormones tested, see if there's an issue. It might more be along the lines of you need to tighten up your tracking. Are you tracking on the weekends, being consistent? But that's typically one that I get hit with the most is Hashimoto's because I get it. Like that's one that you really don't have control over because it's like your body's just, you can't choose that your body's having this response. And so it's like, okay, either I diet at a lot lower calories or I get this under control with medication with my doctor. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
The No, you've been absolutely demolishing this. I've
And
I've
I'm
just
trying to
been
be
like
careful.
quietly listening.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be careful because I don't want people to hear that like you're not trying hard enough. Like you need to do this. Like I get you have this and it
Yeah,
sucks that you have this. Like I
yeah,
don't. And so I will have as much empathy as I can because I don't have it, but you've got to go to your doctor. I'd rather you spend your time figuring out how to get it under control and then worry about weight loss than trying to do both at the same time. Like that's
agreed.
much more important before you're trying to be in a deficit.
Yeah, and I think where you're coming from is a place of empowerment of just saying like that's it's not
Yes.
impossible. Like yes, the cards may be stacked against you. It may be
Correct.
harder for you,
100%.
but it is absolutely not impossible. It is still within your control. It's just
Right.
yeah, it might be harder. The
Yeah.
only thing I want to say, and I know that the 1,000 and 1,500 calories for the listener that's like, oh, I do have Hashimoto's, I have to be eating at 1,000 calories. Bree's throwing out just numbers. Like these aren't like your numbers.
Correct.
These aren't your specific calorie deficit numbers. These aren't like, oh, I need to be in a 500 calorie deficit beyond what I put air quotes here, normal person without
Right.
Hashimoto's would have. Like these are made up numbers. We're just using these as reference points, not
Yes.
absolute targets.
Correct. So the biggest hitter of Hashimoto's, if you're having hard time with weight loss, is that it's going to automatically reduce your metabolism of what your body is burning, essentially. And so you're going to be burning at a lower rate than someone who doesn't have that. And that makes that harder. It doesn't make it impossible, but it does make it really hard and probably to the point where you feel like it's impossible. And that's why I just want to hit home, like go to your doctor, work with them, get on medication to help with all of that because it's an uphill battle having Hashimoto's and trying to lose weight, but it's not impossible. It's just a very hard battle.
Yeah, and one of these things that we talk about so often, and at least, I mean, we both talk about to
Yeah.
a sickening degree, is how hunger management has to be the number one priority, and especially if you are getting your calories lower and lower and lower and lower. I'm sorry, but like things like Oreos or ice cream or pizza or Taco Bell, like it's a very high likelihood that these are going to be either dramatically reduced because
Yeah.
on the specific basis of they aren't going to be as nutrient dense as some whole foods. And I'm all for eating like highly processed foods. I love them. I eat
Yeah.
Oreos and Rice Krispie treats and Taco Bell and pizza. I eat all those things. But what I'm saying is that like if you have to cut your calories lower and lower and lower in order to lose fat, what happens is you're going to get less nutrients in. And so if you're not eating foods that are packed with nutrients, really nutrient dense foods, that could be an issue in the long run. Not a day by day issue, not a week by week issue.
Yeah.
If you're doing this over the course of months and years, yeah, then it could be an issue. And then the other thing is hunger. If you are feeling hungry at your calorie target, don't slash your calories.
Yeah.
Figure out how to maximize your hunger, whether that is through strategies like, eating slowly, taking sips of water between, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
If that is, I think we have a podcast on that maybe, but if not,
Yeah.
we'll do one. Or if it's the food swaps thing. Like, for example,
Yeah.
this morning I posted a story on my Instagram that was,
And for those who don't know, Alex is in a deficit right now. So when he's saying food
yes.
swaps, he's talking about something he's probably swapped because now he's in a deficit.
Yeah, correct. So I'm doing these egg tacos. I sent you a picture this morning. They're just like egg white tacos. And so this morning I was like, I wonder how many calories this would be if I was like in a bulk, right?
Yeah.
And I even was pretty lean. I did like perfect, like I didn't add sauce or anything, which could add, 50 to 100 calories.
Right.
But basically the things that I did was, it was the three tacos, 350 calories, 50 grams of protein total for all three. If I did non-low carb tortillas, that spiked the calories up. If I would normally add 2 eggs and reduce the amount of egg whites, that spiked the calories.
Right.
And then fat-free cheese, I would normally do like, I don't know, like a Mexican blend or just like regular cheddar
just
cheese.
regular full fat cheese. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it went from 350 calories to 750 calories without adding anything different, just with these food swaps. So I think that's just swapping.
That's what I really want to hit home. You're not taking anything out. You still have cheese. You still have tortillas. You still have eggs.
Yep.
You're just swapping what you're using. Eggs for egg whites, regular cheese for reduced fat, your regular tortillas for these tortillas. All you're doing is making swaps, and you saved 400 calories.
Yeah.
Give yourself a whole extra meal for the day, or those could be your snacks for the day.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's what I really want to emphasize to people is like, you can make it easier on yourselves. You don't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be this battle with hunger until you get to this like insanely bodybuilder level lean. You should not be battling with hunger. If you're battling with hunger, you're going about this the wrong way. A little bit of hunger is fine. And I want to say that like,
I'm glad you add that in. I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Hunger's fine. Hunger is, and it's not, hunger is not linear. So it's not like time is, the bottom and then, hunger's at the top, and it's not like a 1-to-1 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wave, like hunger, you'll get really hungry and then you wait 15 minutes and it kind of comes back down, and then you get really hungry again and then it comes back down. So it's like, don't panic. One of the questions that I ask clients, I'm going to make this into a post one day. I looked at her, she was talking to me, we're on a call, and I just stopped and like looked at her for a second. I said, do you see hunger as a problem you need to solve? Mm-hmm. And that was one of the most potent questions I've ever, she was stumped. She said, do I see hunger as a problem? She said, that is a very interesting question. I've never even thought about that before. So I started asking that to other clients too. And it's really interesting seeing their different responses. A lot of them, kind of come to the conclusion that no, hunger isn't a problem. It's a sensation. It's a feeling. And I kind of, does it give you anxiety? Do you worry about it? Do you feel like you need to rush to the pantry, or like, do you start perusing? And if so, I want you to like do a mental check on those feelings, on those sensations, and understand that like, I love Jordan Syatt's The Apple Test. Are you familiar?
Yeah. If you're not hungry enough for an apple or whatever, that, right?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm tracking?
Exactly. Yeah. If you're hungry, go eat an apple. If you don't want the apple, you're not hungry. You're craving something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And that can apply to, just anything where you probably would only eat it if you're super starving. Because I think the apple's a good one, but it's just like, even, I don't know, I think carrots is my kind of marker because I love apples. Sure. I love eating apples. I think carrots my marker. It's like, there's times where it's like, I honestly would take carrots right now because I'm that hungry. Or if it's like, if I went to go grab carrots, it's like, no, I don't want that, because it's like, okay, truly I'm not hungry. It's just I'm craving something, and there's, whether it's salty or sweet, there's something else that I'm craving. So I do love, I use that kind of, not, I would say frequently, but I definitely on the day-to-day think about that. I was at Target the other day, and I was checking out and I saw like some Sour Patch Kids. I was like, ooh, those sound so good right now. So I grabbed them. And on the way, I was like, I'm going to open them in the car. I was like, Bree, when was the last time that you ate? And I was like, it's 2 p.m. and I had breakfast at 8. I haven't eaten lunch yet. I was like, okay, you can have these, but you have to eat lunch first because you're probably hungry. You're not craving the Sour Patch Kids. You're probably actually really hungry. So I went home, had lunch, ate it, completely forgot about the Sour Patch Kids. it wasn't until later that night I was going to bed and I was like cleaning off the counter. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I bought these Sour Patch Kids, because what it really was, I wasn't craving the Sour Patch Kids. I was actually really, really hungry. And so my mind was automatically going to what sounded really good when I was looking at that rack as I was, checking out at Target. I still ate them later, but it was a good check of like, okay, was I really actually craving the Sour Patch Kids, or was I actually really hungry and I was just going to what was easy and highly palatable when I was at Target?
What would you say? So you've had a decade of experience, more or less,
Yeah.
in training yourself to listen to these mental hunger cues and kind of like reflect on them. What would you say to somebody who has 0 or 1 year of experience? They're just getting started. How would you have them remind themselves of exactly what you did?
You're saying like specifically of just remembering like when you eat, like to think, okay, am I craving, or have I eaten?
Yeah, sure. I just think that like mental clarity of having those reflections can be really impactful for people. So,
I I think
how
the
could we?
first yeah, I think the first hurdle is just remembering to think through that. And so it's just like, how would you, first remember every time that you go to eat to remember that? I probably would use a sticky notes. I'd put a sticky note on my
Same.
pantry,
Yep.
sticky note on my fridge. So every time I go, I think I'd probably put when's the last time you ate,
Yep.
or when was your last meal. So I would stop and think, okay, am I craving something, or am I hungry? And then once that becomes a thing, then you probably start automatically thinking about that. And then hopefully you apply it every time you're going to eat something, whether that's a snack, food. Because it's not that I went for Sour Patch Kids. That was the bad thing. I could be going for cuties or something. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, hold up. You just ate 4 cuties. Like,
Yeah.
you're about to go for your 5th one. Are you hungry, or are you craving cuties? And it's like, oh yeah, I haven't eaten in 8 hours. I need to go eat something. So it's just anytime I go towards something smaller, not a full meal, I always catch myself first saying, okay, do you want this snack because you're hungry, or want it because you're craving something? And so I always check that. So I think the first thing is just putting sticky notes. So it stops you, has you think about it. And then as you make that repetitious, that's not a word, I don't know, repeating over
Habitual.
and over again. Habitual, thank you. Habitual, then you probably automatically start thinking about it. But
Yep.
it takes time. You're not gonna start habitually thinking about it in 3 weeks. It's probably gonna
Yeah.
take you months until you start
Yeah.
actually thinking about that each time.
Yeah. You need
So
to repetition is key to making this
yeah,
to making it, yeah, habitual, like
yeah,
she said.
totally.
All right, cool.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. I love it. We come off on tangents.
The tangents are great.
Yes. So the next one I want to talk about is menopause, because I mean, not even in my DMs, just like people in my life, anyone basically over the age of 40 saying, oh, I can't eat like you. You know what I mean? They see me grab a donut and they're like, man, I
Mm.
wish I could eat like you, but I can't anymore because of my
Back when I
age
was
or
in my
whatever.
20s. Back when I
Back,
was in
yeah,
my 20s.
yeah. If you're listening to this and you're in your 40s, we're not trying to make fun of you with
Oh, no, no,
our
no. We
voices that
love
we're
you.
saying,
I'm so
but
sorry. We love you so much. I'm
we
sorry.
do. It's just we
Yeah.
hear the exact same sentence almost every time of I
Yep.
wish I could eat that, or back when I was younger, it's always the same thing. And so what
Can
I
I get
want
a
to hit,
personal touch on this really quick?
yeah, go for it. Yeah, yeah.
It's demeaning when you say shit like that. It's demeaning to people like Bree and I who take our fitness and our nutrition extremely seriously when you just write it off as like, oh, because of our age, we are able to
Age.
do
Yeah.
this. We have hyper discipline around what we do. We are very focused. This is our job. We take this seriously. It is our passion. And so when you say things like,
And we
oh, you have a fast metabolism, or like, oh, it's because you're in your 20s, wait till you're in your 40s, watch
yeah.
me when I'm 40.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you live
Yeah.
that long, watch me when I'm fucking 40.
Yeah.
I'll be the fucking best 40. I'll be the best looking 40-year-old on the planet. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like I know you and Sage will too. Like you guys just live and breathe fitness and nutrition. And
Yeah.
so it's not an age thing. It's who we've chosen to be. So don't
Yeah.
demean our efforts by saying like, oh, you have a fast metabolism, or like, oh, it's because you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
No, it's because we give a shit about this and we've been very consistent and very disciplined.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say, if you have ever said it to us, if you've DM'd one of us about it,
Oh yeah,
like,
don't
we're
sweat
not
it.
upset about you.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it.
Yeah, yeah,
We're fine.
don't sweat it. Like, it's totally fine, because we both know. I think you and me both know when people say that to us, it doesn't come from a bad place. It probably more so
No.
reflects on
Yeah.
themselves,
Them.
and they
Yeah.
wish they could be at that time again where their weight was under control and all that. And we get that, but just also
Yeah.
understand when you say that, it's demeaning the efforts that, like Alex said, like I've had 10 years of trial and error that I've really, really worked hard to get to the place that I'm at today. And it's like the reason I maintain my weight really well, I have the relationship with the food I do, I'm able to eat a donut, but also prioritize my nutrition because I've worked really hard to get here mentally. And so it's not just because of my age, it's because I've really put in the effort. And so I guess to kind of start the, do you have something to add to that? Or do you want to, I was going to kind of get into our points on the menopause part.
I guess just like, yes, like I said, things will get harder as you age. Yes, like around menopause, which we're about to segue into, yes,
Yeah.
things might get harder. For people who have Hashimoto's, things might be harder. For people who grew up in a potentially low income household and didn't have high access to food, to people who have been in a community that don't have the best access to food, to people that grew up in a family that went out for takeout every day and those are the habits. Maybe you didn't learn how to cook. Like, we all have different starting points. That does not change. There's a quote that I love. I'm gonna pull it up really quick, and because it's this impactful, and it says, is Sage in the room? He might know what I'm talking about.
He's not.
Okay.
No.
Okay,
Why?
fine.
Go for it. Is it from like a...
Yeah, don't you worry about it. Okay, I'll tell you where it's from after. But it says, I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. Do you know who said that? It was not Plato. It was not Socrates. It was Mewtwo from Pokemon.
Stop.
I'm dead serious. Mewtwo is my favorite Pokemon by far.
Yeah.
And he's like, all the other Pokemon are just like, saying like Pikachu. He says like Pika Pika.
Yeah.
And like Squirtle says Squirtle.
Yeah, exactly.
Mewtwo is a philosopher.
He really is.
It's exceptional. But I think, like, I know that's just like a funny little, like, silly quote, like, Pokemon, whatever. But it also does prove, it just like, it kind of reinforces the point I'm trying to make that, like, yes, we all have different cards that we're dealt. It's what you do with them that matters.
1,000,000%. Yeah. And I the only asterisk I want to put to that quote, just so that way no one feels bad, is like, he said, where you start from is irrelevant. I somewhat disagree, because where you start from, I think, does have an impact of how you deal with things.
Yes.
1,000,000%. However, you cannot change where you started.
Yes.
You have all in your power to change going forward.
Yes.
And so instead of looking at the past and saying, I grew up this way, or I was taught this, or whatever, it's like, cool, recognize that.
Yep.
But now let's try
Be better.
Let's be better and put on our problem solving hat and be like, okay, how can I fix this? And understanding that it's going to take, again, not to discourage anyone, but it took me 10 years to get to the spot where I am now. And a big reason is because I did a lot of this on my own. Yeah. I was researching, looking up stuff. I didn't have the guidance. I took the time over, having someone help me. And so I had to really navigate a lot of things too. And it's just like, yeah, I could be upset that it took me 10 years when it probably could have taken me half the time. But like, at the same time, I can't change that it took 10 years. And like, that's obviously how it needed to happen. It's like, either it could take 10 years or I just don't pursue it at all. The
access to knowledge is so much higher now.
Yes.
Like,
Definitely.
You can go on Instagram accounts and you do have to be following the right people. So there's, that's important to know.
And that takes, but again, that's another time thing. It takes time to learn how to navigate those types of people too.
Exactly.
So
you have to follow the right people, but man, people can learn a lot about nutrition and fitness from the internet. But back in our day, I'm going to say back in our day, when we were first starting out, it was like bodybuilding forums. That was it.
That's it.
Like,
that was it.
There was no Reddit. There wasn't Twitter. There wasn't Instagram, where people on Instagram 10 years ago were taking picture of like a dog with 7 different filters on it and saying like, my little mocha girl, and like that's what was happening.
When I first started, it was it was either like winter of 2012, spring of 2013, and Instagram had only been around for 2, maybe 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so, because I think Instagram started 2010, and how I got started in fitness was I saw, Jamie Easton Middleton, who's like, just the OG of like the fitness bodybuilding kind of world for women. I saw her on Instagram. She had her page. And at that time, like all people, it was only pretty much bodybuilders that were posting fitness stuff. Yep. And they're posting their shredded photos all the time. So I went to bodybuilding.com, got a free plan, a free workout. Like bodybuilding.com is not free anymore.
No.
Like that's how I started, was literally going to bodybuilding.com and getting all the free stuff. And so we really started, and just like nowadays, there's just so much information. But I also think there's so much information that people are at an overwhelm. And so that's what I think you and me hope to do, is to clear that stuff
kind of
up.
Filter it out a bit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But
All right, sorry to
okay.
derail
Yeah, I'm
again.
gonna go back into
Now
menopause.
we'll finally talk about menopause.
So the biggest change for someone going, and I want to first start off this. Menopause is not easy. There are things that make your life more difficult going through menopause. But the biggest change for people over the age of, 40, 50s is your lifestyle. That is the biggest changer in your metabolism changing because you're typically not moving as much. Whether that's, you came out of the phase of you had kids, now they're 16, they're driving themselves, you're not having to do that. That changes. Maybe you just
Great change.
stopped exercising as much. There's some lifestyle thing of you're not burning as much because you're not moving as much as you used to. That's the biggest home hitter.
Yep.
Now, like I said earlier, does menopause make things harder? 100%, right? When you're going through the hormone changes and then the hot flashes and all that, it absolutely makes you feel different. And when you're feeling not your greatest, when you're feeling all these things, I say feeling because there's a wide range of how it's going to affect you personally. You're less likely maybe to stick to the calories that you're at. You're less likely to be adherent and stuff. Your sleep may be terrible. And if your sleep's terrible, then you're less likely to be adherent. And so the big home hitter there was a study done in 2021 that really validates this. I have this written down, so I'm just going to read off of it. This study done in 2021, there were 6,421 subjects, which is great. If you're ever looking at a study, you want a lot of subjects in the study because it gives us a lot of good data points. 64% were female, which is great because I feel like normally a lot of studies aren't high in female, and then 29 different countries. They did a age range of 8 days to 95 years. And they're basically tracking to see how much of their TEE, their total energy expenditures throughout the day, how it changes over time. For expenditure, they found that the expenditure or the amount of calories that you're burning accelerates rapidly in newborns. It's actually the metabolism of a newborn is about 50% higher than an average adult.
Is that it must be on a per pound basis or something like that. Like, I feel
They
like
they like what's the word? They adjusted body mass, all that kind of
yes.
stuff, but
Okay.
that might not be
On a,
exact
I
math
understand.
there. But they're
No,
basically saying that
that would be exact math. Yeah, 2,000 to
okay.
3,000 for 50%. Yeah.
They're saying that babies' metabolisms are their expenditure. I'm sorry. Let me clarify. Let me specify. Expenditure is 50% higher than that of an adult's. So
Yeah.
already right there, and that's why you're having to feed newborns every like freaking 2-3 hours, and they have to get breast milk is very high in fat. They need those calories so they can grow.
Just a word real quick.
Yeah.
It's very important that she said that it's adjusted for body mass, because please don't feed your baby 3,000 calories per day.
Yeah, it is adjusted for body mass. Yes. And yeah, totally. So that's not that your child's eating 3,000 calories a day. It's kind of like changing things per capita. You're changing it in relation to body mass. And then what they see after that, so it's rapid when they're a newborn. And then from there, it slowly declines from there to about age 20. And I would assume a big of the decline is you're probably slowing down in growth. And so you're probably not going to need as many calories. And then also is probably, I would assume, from you're not moving as much, right? When you're a kid, you are bouncing off the walls. And then as you get older, you get a little bit more sedentary. And so they find at about 20 is where it about evens out. So you rapidly increase as a newborn. And then from there, it just slowly declines until you hit about 20 years old. And then they find from 20 to 60, it's the same for like the rest, for all that time. Even I put in here, even in pregnant women, if again, you account for body mass, your metabolism stays the same from 20 to 60. And then from there, they said roughly, we see a slight, and I'm going to say slight decline from the age of 60. They say about 0.7% per year, which is roughly, I did like, if your BMR is 1,500 calories and you times that by, 0.7%, that's roughly going to be 10.5 calories per year.
10.5 calories is so much
Per
less
year.
than a rounding error.
Yeah.
Like when you're tracking, like it's so insignificant.
Yeah. So it's just like, it really doesn't change that much. And then the last part that they noted on the study was, over 90 years of age, your energy, your expenditure is about 26% below a middle-aged adult. So if you're, again, you could do the math for that, but it's like, it doesn't drop that crazy. So
I
the
think the
home,
0.7% thing, just like looking over the math on this thing right here, I feel like it would have to be a 10 calorie difference per day. Because if it was a 0.7% difference of 1500 of like your basal metabolic rate, we're looking at that on a daily perspective. So it's not 10 calories per year, it'd be 10 calories per day.
well, I'm saying overall. So it's like if you're at 1500 and then at 60 and then at 61, now you're dropping down
I
to
understand. Oh my God. Yes, I understand.
1490.
I
Yes, correct. It
yes,
is per
yes, 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 yes,
day.
yes, yes.
Yeah, but
Totally wrong
overall
with that.
your
Totally.
average your per day thing drops 10. Thank
Yep.
you for clarifying that, because I'm sure someone's like, what, I may have thought the same thing. But yeah, it's dropping basically per year. So
Perfect.
again, this is rough math, but all I'm trying to hit home is that it doesn't change that much. The biggest changer for you is that your lifestyle changes.
Yep.
Typically, when people hit 60, that's when they retire. A lot of people when they retire, they're not as active, and so that's going to be the biggest home hitter. And so again, like Alex said earlier, I'm saying all this to empower you. I'm not saying this of like, yeah, well, the reason why you're hitting menopause, you're not losing weight because you're not working hard enough. I'm
Yeah.
saying, no, like you actually have the power to change things. It's not that your metabolism's screwed, because guess what? If that was actually true, you have no control now. But what I'm telling you is that you have the power to control it. And so let's take a look at things, how active you are, your step goal, and where you're tracking and all those things. You do have the power to make changes that you maybe think you don't.
Agreed. Yeah. I wrote a note on this just in the comments here. And it's a little bit of self reflection time for my people who are 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe 40, 50s, 60s, I should say, and feeling like my metabolism is broken. Shoot, even if you're in your 30s and you feel like my metabolism is broken or something like that, take a really hard look at what you were doing 10 years ago or 20
Yeah.
years ago. So let's say this from a perspective of somebody who's 40 something, right?
Right.
And 20s and 30s, what were you doing? You may have been in college, you may have been chasing around kids, toddlers, babies. Like, babies don't move much, but toddlers and little kids, they move so much. Your steps are going to be hyperinflated during that time.
Yeah.
When your steps are hyperinflated, that means your energy expenditure is hyperinflated. When your energy expenditure is hyperinflated, it means you're going to have an easier time losing weight or maintaining the weight that you're currently at.
Yeah.
Versus what you were doing in your 40s, 50s, 60s. Do you have a desk job? I mean, how
Yeah.
many of us work from home, have desk
Right.
jobs, like sedentary, especially since the pandemic, since
You could
2020?
even just go back 3 years and
Go back
just
3
look at
years. Yes.
pre-pandemic.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not walking around the office anymore. Again, this
Yeah.
is for a lot of us, not all. You're not walking around the office anymore. You're not walking in from the parking lot to the inside. And like these things, yes, that may only be 100 to 300 steps to walk into the building, get yourself situated. But then how much are you moving around during the day versus how
Yeah.
much you're moving at home?
Yeah.
Are your kids independent at this point? Like you said earlier, are they 16?
Yeah.
Are they driving themselves around? Are you not going to every soccer practice? Are you not, making them meals and walking around the kitchen and stuff like that? And,
Right.
and your hobbies, did your hobbies change? Especially 2020 was one of the craziest societal changing years we've ever had, like
Ever.
as a species.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like a
At least in like the
1 year
20, I think when you
shift.
look at like the 21st century, like,
Yes.
I'm sure there's been other
Just for
like,
a single year. Like, there's the
yeah,
industrial revolution, but that didn't happen over like 1 year. This happened
right.
relatively
On
extremely
a
quick. I know it's like
global
dragged.
scale.
Yeah, it's dragged out a little bit, but
Yeah.
it has shifted a lot of things where people who may have had, active hobbies with their friends, maybe they stopped
Mhm.
doing that or reduced doing that. Maybe
Mhm.
how many clients have you worked with or how many people have you heard from that have said like, I gained the COVID 20 or
Yeah.
something like that, saying
100%.
like,
Yeah.
kind of like the freshman 15 kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Totally.
And it's like, one, I'm really sorry that happened to you. I'm
Yeah.
really sorry that your life got derailed, and it sucks. It happened to a lot of us. For Bree and I'm not gonna lie, it panned out pretty well because we were able to build a business,
Yeah.
of online training. Like I was doing the in-person stuff, and that forced me. My gym closed, and that forced me to move online. And I think you
Yeah.
also used as an opportunity to grow.
100%. Yep.
But for some other people, it was hard, and I'm really
Yeah.
really sorry that happened for you. But you have to take stock of what you were doing then, what you were doing now. Stop blaming it on your metabolism. Take some ownership. Make some
Yep.
changes.
Yeah. And so it's the same thing, not quite the same thing as Hashimoto's, but same scenario of if you're more sedentary, less active, you are going to have to be at even lower calories now to be in a deficit. And so what's great about, what this situation is like, it's a lot easier to control. Like Hashimoto's, you need to go to your doctor, get the testing, get the medication. That's going to be a lot, more work, but it's worth going through that to figure all that stuff out. In this situation, it's like, okay, like if
Go for a walk.
yeah. Go for a walk. You don't have to go to the doctor and you can if you want to go get blood
Sure.
tests and just check your overall health, whatever. But for the scenario, it's how can I find ways to be more active is going to be the biggest home hitter. And, there's so many reasons that it could be outside of activity that maybe you're not losing weight. Maybe you're not tracking on the weekends. Maybe you're not tracking using a scale. I mean, there's other things to go into, but the biggest home hitter is just like you're not active like you used to be.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I think we could wrap it up there. I think this has been such a short and punchy episode. Do you have anything else to say?
I want to just go on into the chronic dieter because that's a big one.
That's a big one.
Because I get a lot of comments of, people saying, well, I've been a chronic dieter for a year, or whatever. Chronic meaning that they've done it for a really, really long time. And because they've been in a calorie deficit for so long, they've damaged their metabolism.
Yep.
Typically the people I get this comment from are people who are 50, 100 pounds overweight and they're trying to lose weight. And so they can't lose weight. So they say, well, I must have damaged my metabolism because I've been trying to be trying. That's what I'm going to say. They've been in a deficit for so long. And so they've damaged their metabolism. They can't lose weight. If you were chronically in a deficit, it's almost like an oxymoron.
Yep.
If you were actually in a deficit for a year, you would have lost weight. And so a lot of it. So if you are, again, you're overweight and you're trying to lose weight and you were chronically in a deficit, you actually would have lost weight. So it's kind of an oxymoron. So what's happening typically is that you've been trying to be in a deficit and you are now so psychologically probably exhausted and depleted, burnt out. Thank you. Burnt out because you've been spinning your wheels for a year, have gotten no traction. And now you feel burnt out. I think that's the best way to say it. And so what's happening is that you didn't damage your metabolism. You've been trying to be in a deficit for so long and now you're burnt out and you're saying, okay, well, I've been trying to eat at 1,200 calories for X amount of time. And so I've damaged my metabolism. That's why I can't lose weight. You weren't in a deficit to begin with. And so probably maybe what you need to do is take a break just to give yourself a psychological break. And then when you come back, turn those screws a little bit tighter on your tracking, weekends, being consistent. All of that stuff is typically where it's going to come from. Getting more activity in, all of that. So again, this is not me saying you're not working hard enough. That's the problem. You're working so hard, but not doing it where it's putting you into a deficit that you're getting burnt out and then you're getting frustrated. What we need to do is take a step back and be like, okay, are my efforts actually being spent properly?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think one of the worst things for people is psychologically thinking you're in a deficit or feeling like you're in a deficit without being in one physiologically.
Yeah. Probably one of the worst things you can go through.
Worst things you could go through.
In a fat loss phase or trying to be in a fat loss phase.
It's absolutely miserable.
Because
I have a lot of empathy for that.
Yeah. You get all of the negativeness of being in a deficit with no results.
Yeah.
And so
that's worse because then you feel like your body's broken. You feel like something's wrong with you.
Yeah. So let's just play like a little devil's advocate of, let's just say you were overweight, you've been eating 1,200 calories and you have lost a ton of weight because you have been at a low calorie deficit. Let's say you've lost 50 pounds in a year, eating at 1,200 calories. Just because you're at 1,200 calories does not automatically mean that you're damaging your metabolism. Mm-hmm. There's things that happen over that course of the year where your metabolism adapts. And the biggest one being you now weigh less. So of course your metabolism is going to be lower because we know it takes calories and energy to maintain a certain body mass. So if you weigh less now, your metabolism is going to be lower because you don't have as much body mass to maintain. And then on top of that, your body's going to, if you talk with your hands a lot, you'll probably not talk with your hands as much. There's subconscious things that you don't tap your feet under your desk. Maybe you only get up to go to the bathroom 3 times a day versus 10 times a day. There's subconscious things that your body's doing to say, hey, we're losing weight. We've got to figure out a way to quit, because your body looks at your fat storage almost like you look at your savings account. Your body gets a little uncomfortable when it sees you dipping into your savings account there. And so it's going to do things to help slow the spending per se, but it's not as big as you think it is. The biggest needle mover of your metabolism adapting is that you simply weigh less. And then there's a little bit that comes from there.
Our bodies have been hyper efficient at adapting to, well, I should say they have been adapting over time to make us hyper efficient. And
Yeah.
what that means is like, it's a recent, like last like 50 to 100 ish, maybe 200 years that we have this level of access to food. I mean, even in the last like 5 years,
Yeah.
Grubhub, DoorDash, like
Yeah.
all these things. I can tap a few buttons on a glass screen on my phone, and a
Yeah.
pizza will be here in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That, I mean,
Yeah.
that would blow the brains of our ancestors. Like,
Yeah.
that would be like the most overwhelming. Like, they would just say, like, wait, you're trying to lose weight?
Yeah.
You're trying to get smaller? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like,
Yeah.
we had to, I mean, this is kind of a going way back, but like we had to hunt like a bear or like a
Yeah.
deer to go get
A
food.
bear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
A woolly
so
mammoth. Let's go
yeah,
really far
woolly
back.
mammoth. Let's go real far back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like our body, if we provide it less fuel, it's going to try to spend less fuel. So you
Yeah.
have to, if you want to lose body fat, you got to kind of just beat
Our
that into
bodies
submission to a degree.
Our bodies are constantly adapting to try to keep us alive. I mean, you
Yeah.
even can take this to the point of weightlifting. The
Yep.
reason why your body's building muscle is because your body's like, holy shit, like they're trying to kill us. We've got to be building more
We
muscle.
need to be prepared. We need to be
We got to
prepared
be
next
prepared
time.
for the next time we have 100 pounds on our back. And so it's adapting. And so it's taking the protein, it's taking this. So your body's, and so when you get sick, your body's trying to adapt to make you not sick so you don't die. When you're losing body fat, you're dipping into that quote unquote savings. Your body's like, we've got to figure out a way to not burn as much energy because
Yeah.
if we burn through all of our, I keep saying savings because I think that hits home.
It's great. No, it's great. Keep going with it.
If we keep dapping in our savings, we're going to be in the negative, and the negative means you die.
Yeah,
and so
you're
your
dead.
body's
You're
like,
done.
yeah, we've got to figure out a way to preserve this. And so our bodies are really good at adapting. Your whole body's purpose of existence is to not die.
Yeah,
literally.
That's
every
it.
single day. That's all your body's doing is literally maintaining homeostasis.
Keep him alive. Keep her alive. Like,
keep her alive at all times. You're
Yep.
breathing, your body's trying to keep you alive. Your heart's pumping because it's trying to keep you alive. Like if any of
your
those
blood
things
is being
stop
filtered.
breathing,
Like, yes.
your heart starts pumping, you die.
Yeah, you're done.
So just, that's your body's trying to constantly maintain that. And that's why your body can, if you decide to go keto and not eat carbs, your body can pull energy from other sources because it's trying to figure out ways, okay, how can we keep us alive? And then, that's how starvation works. It gets to a point where it's like, hey, we don't have anything else to pull from. And then those systems have no energy and they stop functioning and you die.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
So,
just a quick note, starvation mode, not a thing. You're not going to eat too little and gain weight. Just want to, I don't even want to touch on that more because that's it. Just cut and dry.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think we have a podcast on that one. We'll have to do one on that if we don't. I don't remember.
We could do starvation mode as a podcast, I guess. But
yeah, if we ever have it. Anyways, all that to say, I don't remember where I was going with that, but
you were talking about
your body's really,
dying.
really cool. And every time that you're mean to it, you're telling it, I don't appreciate you for keeping me alive every day. So every time you pick it apart, so you don't like your hair or your legs or your arms, you're just like, your body's
a little belly.
Yeah. Your dude's like, come on, I'm just trying to keep you alive every day. Why you got to pick me apart like that? So
being able to store energy is, Dr. Adrian Chavez just had the greatest analogy, I think, of all time on this.
Yeah.
I can send you the podcast episode after this. I wish I could plug it right now. I'm so sorry that I can't plug it, Dr. Chavez. But he said different people will have different ability to be able to store body fat or have that energy circulating through your blood.
Yeah.
So if you have more energy circulating through your blood, you'll become pre-diabetic and potentially develop diabetes. That's not a good thing. The capability to store energy is huge. And so he compared it. Oh my God, I'm going to butcher this. And so I would just say, like, go listen to his podcast. I don't know if we plug other podcasts, but I'm going to.
We
right
can.
here.
I just don't know what episode was it. Do you know?
No, I'm so sorry. No.
Okay.
Maybe we put it in the show notes or something like that.
After, I'll put it in the show notes after. So no, go ahead and keep going your thought. I see you looking it up. Don't look it up. Just
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up, but I'm also going to keep going with my thought. And he was basically saying something along the lines of, like, having more energy on your body is like having a garage where you can put extra boxes. And if your garage gets too full and you can't store any more energy, you have an issue. But if you
Yeah.
don't have a garage and your clutter's coming around your house, you also have an issue.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
having a garage where you can store the extra boxes and things like that is a net win. And so I wouldn't look at your body fat on your body as an issue in the terms of, unless it's like on the extremes, right? Way
Yeah.
too little or way too much. If you don't have the ability to store body fat for whatever reason, like
Yeah.
that would be a massive, massive, massive
Yeah, because you're
issue.
right. Because the point is that if we didn't have the ability to store body fat, we would die.
We would die.
We would die. So it's
Or
like kind
or
of
we would
looking
be
at,
so like day to day would be delirium trying to
yeah,
get in our energy needs. Because like if we
yeah,
went a few hours or days like without eating, we would
yeah.
die.
You would just die because your body's like, hey, we haven't had food in 8 hours. So we're just going to pull from the fat stores. And when we get food back, we'll just replenish these little fat stores again. Again, it's just like having the savings, you know what I mean? Of having that savings account. Yeah, no, I like that analogy that he put there basically.
Yeah, it was so good. And then he also just said like, and it's kind of like, oh, it's his episode from February 27th. It's called Deconstructing Energy Balance Beyond Calories In versus Calories Out. Very,
What's
very,
the
very
name of
good.
his podcast?
The Science of Nutrition
Okay,
podcast.
cool.
Highly recommend that podcast if
Yeah,
you want to do more deep dives and debunks into nutrition.
yeah,
Very, very
he's
solid
fantastic.
podcast. He's awesome.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, and he said like, once your garage is full, then you're going to have to start storing some boxes in your house and you don't want that. And that's kind of like
yeah,
saying like if you have excess body fat and you have more energy circulating in your bloodstream for prolonged periods of time, yeah,
that's
I mean, you might run the risk of prediabetes or diabetes, and that's not what
yeah.
you want.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think to wrap up this podcast and just reiterate, I feel like I've said it so many times, but I just want to make sure that everyone's clear that my intention is to say or both of our intentions is not to say that you're not working hard enough.
Yep.
It's not to say that yeah, I don't want to think that you're not working hard enough. What we're trying to do this entire podcast is empower you and say, hey, I know you've been told for so long that you can damage your metabolism, you can get older and your metabolism slows down, you can have the diseases and you can't lose weight. It's not going to happen for you. We're trying to tell you, yes, those things can make stuff harder, but it's not impossible. And no, at the end of the day, it comes down to being in a calorie deficit. And there are things, whether it's in your control, you could argue outside of your control with Hashimoto's or the other autoimmune diseases and stuff like that, but there are things that you can do to help solve the problems. And so I think when you think again, I always like to play devil's advocate in my brain of like, okay, let's just say your metabolism is damaged. Now what? Like, you complaining about it doesn't solve the problem. So let's stop complaining about it and let's move forward. I had a friend in high school one time, and this kind of changed my thought process going out. And again, this is not to be mean. It's just for you to think through things. I was complaining about a situation with someone to a friend, and she was like, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, I mean, nothing. I don't plan to do anything about it. She goes, well, if you're not going to do anything about it, then you need to stop complaining. Yeah. And at
Is
that
she still your
moment,
friend? That's a lifelong friend
yes,
to
yes,
call
she
you
is.
out.
She is.
Call
Yes.
you out like that. That's a lifelong
Yes.
friend.
And she didn't say that meanly. And at
Homie.
the time that hit me, not hard because again, I knew her good intentions, but I'm like, you're right. Like, if I'm not going to do anything about it, I need to accept the situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so if you are in your, 40s, 50s, and you feel like your metabolism slowed down or whatever it is, it's like, okay, if that's your reality, either you need to accept that or you need to go on the quest to be like, okay, why is my metabolism slowed down? And then you learn, okay, it hasn't. Oh my gosh, it's in my control. Oh my gosh, it's my lifestyle. So it's like, we can sit there all day and complain, but at the end of the day, you got two options when you complain. You either need to accept it so that way you stop being in that negative headspace and make it into a positive, or figure out how to change that. And so again, this is not me saying this to be mean. Please know I say this with all the love in my heart. But if you have things that you're constantly complaining about and wanting to change, it's okay that you complain. It's okay you're upset. You're human. But let's, every time we complain about it, say, how can I problem solve this and change this?
Yep.
And make that
Agreed.
going forward. If you're having a problem with going to the gym consistently, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, why me? What about my weekends? Could I start going on the weekends? What if I went in the morning?
Schedule it out. Yeah.
What if I, went in the evening? What if I went at my lunch hour? Or, you know what? I work 80-hour weeks as a lawyer. I don't have weekends. I don't have mornings. I don't have evenings. Okay, then we need to accept that you're trading off being able to work out and building a healthier lifestyle for your job.
Yep.
So you just have to have those tough conversations with yourself and just be honest. And again, I'm going to say it one more time because I don't want to take this the wrong way. I say all of this I am a kick in the ass, but a warm hug all at the same time right now. So
Yep. Agreed.
cool.
I'm a little
Anything
bit more
else?
of a kick in the ass. Still a warm hug, but a little more kick in the
Yeah.
ass. You know?
Well, you know, we can moderate.
We gotta, yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta
I can give a
cut
little
that
less
cop
hug, a
2
little more
degrees.
kick, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah. Anything else you want to add? I feel like that's a good wrap up spot.
No, I really think I think you especially nailed it.
Thank you.
And I hope people really appreciate the deep dive that you did on this. And I think this is one of our best episodes yet, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And if you listen to this, you're like, okay, well, my situation is the chronic diet or the menopause or the Hashimoto's or whatever, shoot us a DM. We would love to talk
yeah.
you through and help you figure things out. I want to
Yeah.
problem solve with you. I don't want you to be stuck. So let's
Sure.
talk these things out. So just shoot
Sure.
us a DM if you have any
Yep.
questions on this podcast.
Yep. And leave a 5-star review.
Yeah.
Do that. Share it. Tag us if you do share
If you
it.
listen to this podcast, screenshot it, post it to your stories, tag us. We'd love to reshare it. Again, anytime you guys share our podcast, it just helps us out. It's a free way to tell us that we're going to doing a good job and to support us. So
it's a virtual high five to us, and
exactly.
we really appreciate it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I guess we'll say goodbye here, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.